Welcome to Business Innovators Radio, featuring industry influencers and trendsetters sharing proven strategies to help you build a better life right now.
Welcome to Brilliance Business TV, conversations with leading experts in business. I am your host, Mark Stephen Pooler, and we are streaming live on Facebook, Periscope, LinkedIn, Instagram, YouTube, and we're also streaming through mspnewsglobal.com. We're also streaming on the E360 TV network under Fresh Takes, going live on Roku, Apple TV, Fire TV, Android TV, and many, many more. I want to give a shout out to our official show sponsor, Craig Shelley, Beverly Hills, luxury watches and fine jewelry at craigshelley.com. We have an incredible show for you today. This entrepreneur is someone that I have interviewed a few times. She's had a lot of media coverage with me, but not only that, we have built a relationship and become great friends. Our pasts are very, very similar, so I'm really looking forward to Meagan Fettes coming onto the show today and sharing her amazing story. I am going to bring Meagan straight into the broadcast. Hey, Meagan, welcome to Brilliance Business TV.
Thanks, Mark. I'm so excited to be here.
I'm really looking forward to a conversation with you today, Meagan. You have such a powerful, inspirational story, and I know you have to show vulnerability to share it, because I do exactly the same with my personal story as well. But it's so important we share our hardships and struggles to really inspire others that you can create a whole new reality. You are helping so many entrepreneurs from your Rise Entrepreneur Centre. I want to go back into your background a little bit, Meagan. So can you share a little bit about your background, the struggles, challenges that you have faced that have led you to what you do today?
Absolutely. And I love that vulnerability piece, because I really believe that vulnerability is where we build that true connection, right? And it's that connection that is the most important aspect of business, of life, of really anything that we have as human beings. So happy to do so. I'll start way back at the beginning, to be honest. My childhood, I was very blessed. I mean, I had great parents. I spent a lot of time with my grandmother. And I often say that my grandmother was like the epitome of the law of attraction. She taught me yoga. She taught me meditation by the time I was 6. And I remember even being a teenager and asking her one day, because this woman had never worked a day in my life, but yet always had an abundance. And I remember asking her, like, what do you do to be able to do the things that you love to do and never seem to worry about money? And for her, it was so matter of fact. She just said to me, Meagan, I ask the universe every single month for exactly what I need, and that much or more shows up in my bank account. And so it was amazing. Like, I grew up with all of these incredible spiritual tools, living in the energy of the law of attraction. And yet on the inside, there was aspects of myself that never felt accepted. And in my own journey through that search of trying to find out who I was, where I was accepted, where I belonged, I ended up diving into a relationship that was not a great relationship, to be honest. I mean,
yes,
it was abusive on many fronts. And one that really shattered my self-confidence, shattered who I felt I was in my growing up, and left me in a space of feeling quite lost. And it was in that lost space that I actually became an alcoholic and became a drug addict. And I was doing all of these things to try and numb out my pain, to try and find where I belonged still, trying to attach myself to something without wanting to deal with what I needed to deal with within myself. And that carried on for years. I mean, every single day I'd wake up, and I was a functioning addict. So I could go to work, I could maintain relationships, or so I thought, and felt like I was living a fairly normal life until one morning. And I remember this like clear as day, Mark. It was the same as every other morning. I woke up and was driving to work and was doing the same old program play out in my mind about how many hours I had until I could pick up, how many hours until I could have my first drink. And I was calculating this all in my mind like I did every single morning. And I remember stopping at a stoplight, and it was like the skies had opened and clarity had just funneled through. And all of a sudden, I felt like I had two choices directly in front of me. I felt like I could keep going the way that I was. And at this point now, we had lost many friends to drug overdoses, to jail, to multiple aspects, murders even. So I knew what that path had in front of me. But then I also felt a very strong pull to something different. And at that time, I had no clue what it was going to be. I had no idea what kind of transformation it was going to hold. But I knew in that moment that that was the choice I needed to make. And I literally went and I changed absolutely everything. I let go of my group of friends at the time. I signed up for a mastermind. Actually, we were studying a Bob Proctor book. You Were Born Rich. And then I got myself registered into my first yoga teacher training, and it changed my whole life. And it brought me back into who I was and who I was meant to be. And I knew in that moment that that was where I was supposed to be. These were the tools I was meant to share.
Thank you so much for sharing so many vulnerabilities there, Meagan. That can really inspire others that it's never too late. I just want to touch on a few things that you have said. Firstly, great that your grandmother introduced you to yoga and all of these great mindsets at such a young age. I wished I had found them younger in life. I was maybe around 21 before I started using Law of Attraction, and then I really didn't take it serious to 31 years old, and then I really started to use it. Also, you talked about toxic relationships. I have been through these myself. They're very, very difficult things to get through. And you also mentioned about addiction. And sometimes people have the image that drug addicts go out and steal for their addiction. And I was exactly the same as you, Meagan. I was a working addict. All through my addiction, I carried out working as a hairstylist. So when I tell people my story now, they will say things like, well, you was working, that doesn't make sense. But you put on a face, even when you're off your face. I used to still go into work and get through the day. So I think that is a misconception people have, that drug addicts just go out stealing and they're low lives. That's not the case. Drug addicts are people that have got a problem, they've got the addiction, they can be the greatest people in the world struggling with a battle, and it doesn't necessarily mean that they will go out and steal to feed that habit. I want to make that clear. And also, yes, just such a powerful story. And I just think, can you share a few tips for people, or just a little few words of wisdom, maybe if people are struggling with addiction, Meagan, or maybe if people are in a toxic relationship right now, because a lot of people are suffering in the world. What advice would you give to them?
Absolutely. My biggest advice is to shift from focusing on everything that's happening around you into what is it that you want to create for you. And what I mean by that is shifting our focus of control. Because we have usually, especially when we're moving through addiction or when we're going through struggles or challenges in our lives, it's actually our perception that cultivates that challenge. It's us looking outside of ourselves to achieve a specific outcome. And we don't have control over anything outside of ourselves. We only have control over what we think and what we do. That's it. And when we can see it from that point of view, all of a sudden, it takes away all of the pressure of feeling like we have to change all of these elements in our life in order to create a path for ourselves. The path is already there. All you need to do is shift from that external point of view to the internal action.
I agree. Great words of wisdom. And I would just like to add to that just a little bit as well, with addiction especially, and that can be any kind of addiction: food, sugar, drugs, drinking, sex. First, you have to admit that you have got a problem before anyone else will be able to support or help you. And I always say, never suffer alone. Ask for help from a doctor, a friend, a family member, a mentor, someone that you trust. Never suffer alone and never be embarrassed or ashamed. But it's really important that you admit first that you have a problem so that others can support you. Now, I've really enjoyed hearing your journey so far. I want to know about your business today. Tell us what you do. What are you about, Meagan?
Yeah, so my business is all about supporting the conscious entrepreneurs. So the yoga instructors, the healers, the health and wellness individuals, because that is my love. I mean, I was a yoga instructor for several years. I mean, about 15 years, and I still teach. I absolutely love the practice. And what I noticed in that journey of teaching yoga was how few individuals in the health and wellness or in the conscious aspects really understand the fundamentals of business. And usually what I find is there's actually a mindset block around the spirituality piece of, okay, well, I can implement these systems, but then I don't feel like it's in alignment with me. And often that stops and creates that roadblock. And so that's what I do, is I bridge the spiritual, like really honing into the internal work of who we are, and the external actions that we need to take in order to build a business that not only creates impact and revenue, but also what I like to call soul filling, right? Like it fills us up. It truly resonates with who we are and what we're meant to be doing here in this lifetime.
I agree, and it's great what you're doing, because when you're in alignment, Meagan, you can feel it, you attract, and you think, wow, everything's going great. When you're out of alignment, you also feel that too, and you can't have one without the other. So if you're just focusing on the external action, as you mentioned, and not focusing on your inner wellness, your spirituality, it's just out of alignment, isn't it? And also, if you're just focusing on spirituality and not taking the external action, you're not going to get the results that you want. But also, I think what is great, the world is so much more conscious and awake, and spirituality, science, business, it's all coming together. Do you agree?
I do. And it's interesting. Like in yoga, we talk about how we are all elements of energy. Like there's the masculine and the feminine, the yin and the yang. And we are not only one piece of energy. And so I love that the external is starting to find that holistic point of view as well, because as human beings, we're holistic. And so it makes sense that everything that we do, every action that we take is meant to be holistic in nature. That it's meant to encompass the yin, like the resting, the nurturing, the more like loving kind of energy, the soft energy, and the yang, the more purposeful, action-driven, fiery energy. So it's neat to see it all coming together, because it's like we finally are bridging the gaps, and we're finally beginning to create models that are true in nature versus kind of segregated as they were up to this point.
Yes. And what comes to mind there as well, Meagan, and this was a hard one for me. Sometimes you can see people as bad, or they're great, they're all good, or even yourself, I'm a good person. But once you realise everyone has both good and bad, and you have to embrace both of those traits, everyone has good, everyone is bad. I think that is a great step forward, when you not necessarily being a bad person, but embracing everyone has got good and bad traits. Do you agree there?
Absolutely. Yeah, in the spiritual world, we talk about the light side and the shadow side, and how like it's really the duality of the two, and it's neither is good or bad, right? Neither is positive or negative. It's our perception on one or the other, but each allow us different opportunities, I'll call it. Like the light is usually more acceptable, where people appreciate it a little bit more. We seem to feel better in it. And then there's the shadow, which is our growth opportunities. That's where we really have the opportunity to look at ourselves and say, okay, what am I feeling in this? How am I experiencing this? And what do I choose to do with it moving forward? So both are really like fundamental in who we are and what we get to become, but it's all based on how we've perceived it, based on like past-based experiences and relationships.
It's so easy not to recognize that, and it's so easy to judge others just because you're perceiving something that's bad and you don't see the good qualities, and then that actually affects yourself and your own growth as well. You should never judge others. Meagan, I have really enjoyed part one of Brilliance Business TV. Great conversation. We're going to a commercial break. Join us after the commercial break. We're joined with Meagan Fox. Who's that?
I'll take that.
We're joined with Meagan Fettes. Meagan is an entrepreneur of Rise Entrepreneur Centre. We have discussed her past of being in a toxic relationship, overcoming addiction. We have talked about how she supports others and what she does in her business. Join us after the commercial break when we discuss all about the 12 universal laws. Welcome back to Brilliance Business TV with Meagan Fettes. Before the break, we have discussed such a great topic: overcoming addiction, toxic relationships. We have learned all about spirituality and business coming together. Meagan, welcome back to Brilliance Business TV. Now, I want to talk about the 12 universal laws and how can individuals use the 12 universal laws in their life, in their business, to create more abundance, more success, more peace of mind, and better well-being.
Awesome. Yeah, the 12 universal laws are really one of my favorite tools, both for personal development, to really understand why we are the way we are, what we get to do to shift our experience, and how simple it can actually be when we utilize and understand the 12 universal laws. And within business, same thing. It's that opportunity to see that everything is actually navigating off of the same laws. And when we learn how to implement them and utilize them on a regular basis, then it just becomes more natural. The process becomes more easeful and more fluid versus the resistance and the force that often comes in. I have a belief that we are meant to be standing in our power and moving from a powerful place versus that force. And whenever we step into that force, that's an indicator that we're out of alignment, that we're out of the universal laws. And what can you do utilizing these universal laws to bring yourself back?
So, can you just go over the 12 universal laws?
Yeah, absolutely. So the first one is the Law of Divine Oneness. And this is one of my favorites. I mean, you'll hear me say that about most of them. But this is, to me, the meat and potatoes of energy, of spirituality, of what we're here to really understand. And basically what it is the idea that no one is different. Everything, both living and non-living, is of the same value, the same importance, the same energy essence as anything else.
Yes.
And so it's that recognition that no one is above or below anything or anyone else. And how do we show up in that space of acknowledging that we are all equal in this journey?
Hear, hear.
Oh yeah, that's one of my preach it kind of laws, because I believe and I know in my own experience that when we begin to move from that space and really embody it, that in itself is transformational.
I totally agree. I think oneness is very, very powerful, and we see it in action most when there is normally disasters. That's when everyone comes together and it's like a big energy of people supporting, working together. And that's when you can really see oneness in action. Do you agree with me there?
Yeah. It's that usually once we've had all of our external stuff kind of taken away almost, and then we're able to stand and say, you know what's really of value? What's really important here? Because what I've experienced, at least in my own journey, and I'm sure you probably agree too, Mark, is it's the external that creates the distraction, right? So it's usually the desire to have more things, the desire to obtain a certain status, all of these desires that actually take us out from our true nature. Now, those desires aren't bad or negative by any means. That's where the growth happens again, is how can I have this desire while maintaining that balance within my being? And so in those disasters, that's where the desires all get taken away and it's all a unified perspective.
Beautifully said, Meagan. And yes, I just think the world is becoming more conscious, and I think this pandemic and being locked down for over a year now, yes, it's becoming a little bit of a nightmare. It's becoming a little bit tiring, not being able to socialize like we would like. A lot of people have died, but I do think it's still important we all focus on the positives, and I think a lot of people are more conscious. It's made them reevaluate the way they're doing business, the way they're valuing their time, the way they're showing up with work and doing work differently, more remotely. I think there has been a lot of blessings this last year. I know there's been a lot of tragedy, but there has been a lot of blessings, and I think the whole world is a new world and it's never going to be the same again. What do you think about that, Meagan?
I totally agree. I actually call this time the Great Awakening, because I really have seen all of the emotions that at least myself, I'll speak to myself, all the emotions and all of the things that I had thought I had dealt with have come to the surface in the last year in different experiences and different occasions, but they've all bubbled up and I've had to sit with them because there's nothing else to do. And I've had to really sit with them and be with them and feel them and experience them. And it's not an easy process, but it's essential, because I believe that a lot of those lower vibrational emotions that we've held on to for years are not able to move forward with us in what we're moving into as a world moving forward. And we're being called to heal. We're being called to let go. And we're being called to give ourselves the opportunity of, like you say, tapping into what's of most value. Where are you going to point your priorities to? How are you going to utilize your time, your most valuable resource? And how are you going to show up in a way that feels good from this point, from your heart space versus your head and the ego space?
I agree. Great words there. I want to talk now a little bit about Rise Entrepreneur Centre. What is it? What can people expect if they get involved with Rise Entrepreneur Centre? What's it all about, Meagan?
Yeah, so Rise Entrepreneur Center really begins the journey of building your business, focusing on you. Because to me, the most fundamental aspect of business is you. So it's about really gaining clarity around who you are, what you value, what daily practices you want to have in your life, and what that actually means on a soul level. And we really hone into building and understanding you on all surfaces, so that as you go to build your business, you and implement the strategies that, of course, then we bring in, you're able to maintain who you are, but you're also living your message. Because I think that's a really powerful thing. And especially over this last year has been something that has really come to the surface. Are you living your message or are you not? And you're going to be attracting more people more easily when you're walking your talk and you're living your message and you're owning your truth. When all of this is in line, the strategy becomes easy and it begins to get results on a more fluid and fast level. Like the momentum is crazy. So it's that piece, the spiritual, and then of course, like the strategy. And it's my method is, it's not a sprint, it's a marathon. And it's really about what do you get to do every single day that's going to get you the results. It's going to compound what you're doing today to what you're doing 30 days from now. And how will that shift the results that you get in your life and your business?
Little steps take you all around the world and back. And I can imagine there's lots of new entrepreneurs coming into the space as well due to the pandemic. People have lost jobs, people have gone out of business, people love the new world of online, even though we always loved it. A lot of new people love the new world of online conferencing calls, doing business over online on the PC, on their phone. So I can imagine there are lots of new entrepreneurs, but who would you say this is calling out to? Who needs to join this Rise Entrepreneur Centre? Who is it perfect fit for?
Yeah, so this is really, I often say the conscious entrepreneur, but like you say, Mark, you've made a really great point in a lot of our conversation that more and more people are waking up and becoming more conscious. So who the Rise Entrepreneur Center really is great for is the healers. So yoga instructors, healers, coaches, and then the health and wellness industries. So fitness individuals, nutrition, those people that have the great desire. I call it the servant's heart to really serve. And often they'll put themselves out in order to serve the greater community. Yeah. And so those are the individuals that I love to support, because I want to shift that you can both be an abundant individual, a successful person, and impact those that you serve.
Now, you have a survey on your riseentrepreneurscentre.com, riseentrepreneurscentre.com. Tell us a little bit about this survey, Meagan.
Yeah, so basically this survey just helps you to know if you and I are a great connection. I'm a big believer in time, of course, being our most valuable resource. So I love to know, am I somebody that can support you or not, right? And to know that right off the beginning, right off the start, so that you're not wasting your time if I'm not a fit to support you in what it is that you're wanting to create. But then it also helps to gain clarity on what right now are your biggest struggles? What aspects or elements are you doing that might be holding you back? And it gives you that clarity on those fundamental pieces.
I would encourage everyone to go through the survey. You will either learn something or you will be connected to a great opportunity that will really help you to get your business and spirituality together to create more abundance. So go to riseentrepreneurscentre.com. I highly recommend Meagan. She is a great friend. She is who she says she is, and I've just loved getting to know you over this last year, Meagan. Meagan, I have really enjoyed having a conversation with you today. Is there anything we did not cover that you would like to share?
Ooh, that's a great question, Mark. Not that I can think of right off the hop. I've really appreciated this time getting to know you too, Mark. I think the last year has been really incredible for that, building really good relationships. And that's the one thing that I've really noticed in my business has been the big shift over this last year, is acknowledging who do I want to spend my time with in my business, who's in alignment with my belief systems, who has the desire to create a greater impact and to really serve while living it, like I say a lot, in the heart space. And it's been neat because I've had this opportunity to really dive into our relationship, you and I, because I believe that you are that kind of person. The service that you create for your community is incredible.
I really appreciate your kind words, and I'm really glad that we connected just under or just over a year ago, Meagan. Meagan, thank you so much for being my guest today.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone, for watching Brilliance Business TV. conversations with leading experts.
Thanks for listening to Business Innovators Radio. To hear all episodes featuring leading industry influencers and trendsetters, visit us online at businessinnovatorsradio.com today.